1. First up, some backstory. During my gap year between studies, I decided to work for Company N. Company N was run by a husband, Dave, and wife, Karen, with their son, and basically treated their staff like a small family. All was well for about 2 months until I realized I had to ask for a day off, since I wanted to attend the last Slayer concert the band would have in my country. There was about a month to go, so I sent an email asking for the day off and explaining why. This is where everything started to go downhill. I got a reply from the Karen, and her reply was weird. She stated that's not how asking for days off works. I was confused, to say the least. Not sure what to do, I thought she wanted a more formal way of asking. So I wrote a formal email asking for the day off. She shot an email back. I really had to think through what I was doing, which made even less sense to me. But I was hopeful since I never really got a specific no. The next workday rolls around, I arrived, locked up my bike, and headed inside ready for work. I immediately started looking for Dave to look for answers. Before I could even open my mouth, he said to me, "Do you still want to go to that concert?" I didn't really expect him to ask this so quickly. Yes. The only thing he said back was, "Okay, take off your vest and you can go home." I was stunned, and while the words started to sink in, I looked at my colleagues, which were just preparing for opening. When it finally sank in, anger flowed in. I am not a confrontational person, so I simply took off my vest and gave it to Dave. Without a word, I left and started biking home. When I got back home, I told my mother what happened. We started sending emails for extra information and got very Karen-like emails back. After a couple of emails, which basically went nowhere, I looked up the laws for immediate dismissal. After reading up about it, I learned that in my country, somebody can only be immediately fired when caught stealing, frauding, the person isn't able to do the work, or refusal to do the work. I did none of these. A day or two later, I met with my attorney and began the steps to sue Company N. I told my lawyer what happened in detail, and he was very confident I was in the right and she was not. So after trading even more emails between the three of us, we went to small claims. I came prepared in a suit with my attorney in tow, and Karen showed up, alone. I guess she assumed she won because she thought she was in the right. The trial began, and I was as professional and objective as I could be. Karen did the same. Well, for about half the trial. When she realized evidence was piling up against her, she resorted to calling me a spoiled brat, among other things that I don't know the English translation for. Safe to say, that was the point the judge ruled in my favor. As per usual, I had to wait a month before I got the verdict in black and white in the mail, but I won. It may have taken about 6 months from the moment I was told to go home, to the point those 6 months of pay were transferred to my bank account, but it was 100% worth it. In the end, I went to the concert. It was the most awesome and most profitable concert I have ever been to in my life. And if you're wondering, I actually have no idea what their deal was. She sent some cryptic emails and expected me to understand them. If she would have given me a clear no, I would have understood and moved on. I'd not have been happy, though. 2. This happened a very long time ago. 25 plus years, and is theoretically still going on. I was happy working in a local office in my 20s when I was, out of the blue, headhunted by another company. The position was a promotion, more money, and I was to be trained to take over from the office manager when he retired. I took the job. It was horrible. The work was nothing like they had said. I was basically looking after a bunch of idiots who couldn't tell their arses from their elbows, or to be honest, about their work timings. They lied on job sheets, didn't turn up for work, and I spent the entire time dealing with crisis after crisis. I'd been there about 3 months and looking for a way out, when the manager suddenly announced the office was closing. Imagine quiet dances of joy on my part. No one else was happy, though. I quietly asked the manager if he knew this was happening when they offered me the job, and he refused to answer. This was a very valuable lesson for my future because it made me realize that not everyone has your best interests at heart. A few days later, I got my monthly payslip, and for the first and only time in my life, it had a negative value. I nearly had a heart attack. From my salary, they had taken not only emergency tax, which they didn't need to do because they had my correct forms and hadn't in the previous payslips, but also a large chunk for the company's pension scheme, which I didn't have to join because of my age. The HR department had decided I had to be older than I was because of the job I had. I was so upset. I hadn't signed up for this and asked for it back. The HR department basically told me to go do one and they wouldn't consider it, even though their paperwork said that at their discretion they could cancel my voluntary pension contribution. There was nothing I could do. I was very smugly told there wasn't anything in the scheme's rulebook to cover their taking money in these circumstances. I was spitting feathers when I had to pay them before I could leave. Admittedly, it was only a couple of pounds, but it was the principle. Now, here is where the malicious compliance comes in. A few months later, to my surprise, the pension people rang me at my new place of work and asked where they could send a check for my contributions to. I thought about it for a split second, saying, "No, I'm good. It can stay in your pension scheme." They were so shocked and kept insisting they should send me a check, and I just said, "No, keep it in the scheme. You wanted it, you got it." The reason I did this was because when I moaned to my dad about this, dear old dad had laughed and pointed out that the scheme would be sending me statements every year to tell me how much my contribution had increased and how much I would be getting, and asking whether I had any questions. Wisely, or rather unwisely, he pointed out that this would cost a lot more than the amount I had paid in. So I left it there. They insisted it should come out of my salary, so they can damn well invest it for me. Over the years, I have been contacted by them offering to pay me different amounts of money to settle it, and I have said, "No, I'm good," each time. When I got married, I dutifully filled out all the paperwork for a change of name and sent it off to them. This kicked off another round of "let us settle with you," and me saying no. In 3 years, I will be entitled to a lump sum of approximately £75 plus my annual pension of £17. I suspect that over the years it cost them a lot more to manage than that. Quite frankly, I may not claim it when the time comes, as that apparently would kick off a lot more paperwork, as they have to have a reason for people not to claim. Admittedly, looking back on it as I type, it all seems so silly and pathetic, but still brings a smile to my face when I think of the panic in the little man's voice when I told him my minuscule, to them, but entire salary to me, could stay in the scheme. He did try to force me to take the money, but as I pointed out to him, there wasn't a rule covering money taken in this situation, but there was a rule saying all contributions accepted by the scheme had to be processed. 3. I had my own company where I had an excellent staff of 18 people. We did service maintenance on a specific type of heavy machines for several locations. We were contracted by the company that makes them. This was part of their pitch when selling the items, that they had free, unlimited amount of repairs and service calls for the lifetime of the machine. I had previous experience in this field, and I actually helped them get into some very well-known companies. As a consultant, I helped install them. After installation, they wanted me to temporarily service them until they could find staff. So I gave them my rate card and they paid it. It was not cheap, and it's a very specialized field that I spent way too long going to school and giving up my life to gain work experience in. Also, anyone in this service maintenance field gets paid very well too. All my workers were overpaid and not one person quit for the entire 6 years. Their business got to be so big that I had to hire people, and I had this temporary position for just over 6 years. About the last year and a half, my team took out some of the machines from the smaller companies, as the companies never really used them, as they broke down often and they were a huge burden. Because they were on lease, the manufacturer got them back. We all started to somewhat talk about what was happening. We discovered that machines made in the last few years were cheaply made. They were using a lot of out-of-country internal guts to keep things cheap and more money for them. They didn't run the same, the fixes were not helping. We went back to the manufacturer and kept telling them what we were finding on site. They didn't believe us. We told them to come out. They would not. We told them that our work was taking twice as long to repair. Still, they didn't believe us and told us it was inaccurate reporting and we were gouging them. As a result, they lost every small business owner, and the larger ones were not far behind. So the manufacturer told me that when our contract was up, we were going to be done. It was fine. I was working too damn much both on site and as a boss, and I was exhausted. The day comes to hand, and transfer all the parts and extra equipment, and we were all really kind, helping out with moving everything to their trucks. We were all jovial and genuinely happy that the manufacturer was going to take the service repair and maintenance in-house, because we all felt for that last year they were not hearing us. Frankly, I think we were all done at that point. Of course, the owners were a bunch of sourpusses and barely got their fancy long-sleeve button-up with cufflink shirts dirty. I should point out that the manufacturer was just 3 owners that never could agree. They were insistent that the machines better be in the exact state they were when they arrived. So we did. We went to each site a week prior and removed all the small repairs that held things together, like duct taping a small hole in the back that when light hits it, it shows an error. Yeah, we had no idea why they had designed an Achilles heel to shut down a machine with a standard everyday beam of light, but we used to call it the Star Wars hole. Since they didn't believe us that we had to do these small little things to hold the machines together, we just removed it and let them figure it out themselves. So we cleaned all of our little machine hacks that kept the machines running and left. We wiped our hands up with them and had a goodbye party that lasted all weekend. It was so much fun, and I enjoyed putting it together. About 2 weeks later, I get a call from one of the owners who whined to me that they couldn't keep their in-house staff on sites because repairs were taking too long. They were confused, tired, and they were refusing to do that much work, and every machine had a problem that they couldn't resolve in time, and that all customers were complaining. So they asked me, just me, back to work for them. He offered me minimum wage. After laughing for way too long, I said no. As an update, he called me today and begged me to help out with all the major companies, except for one that are backing out, and they want to rid themselves of the lease. He wants me to help him hold on to this last company. See, one of the things they did is that they started to charge for service calls, which was free and unlimited prior. No one is happy with them at all. I said no. I should mention that the owners fought all the time, couldn't agree on anything, fought in front of us, fought through emails, and fought on the phones with us. It was confusing because one would say one thing while the other said another. The last year and a half they kept fighting with me that we were not being compliant to their requests, but that was hard as they constantly could not agree, which I consistently pointed out all the time. They claimed that I was charging too much and that I was lying on the amount of hours we were spending, as we charged by the hour. I would like to mention that I don't want it to ever seem like I don't know how hard someone who gets minimum wage works, as I helped out a friend this year just prior to the pandemic and accepted minimum wage. I hadn't worked in a year and my friend was in desperate need, and I didn't have anything to do as I was just enjoying semi-retirement. It was all I could afford, and I was willing to do it until he could find a replacement. It was a great cashier job. I interacted with customers all day and I loved it. I had it for about 4 months, and I went back last week to train 2 people, and didn't charge my friend a penny. 4. The background. I work in the operations department at my company. A lot of what we do involves data entry, taking the paperwork our customers send us and entering it into our computer system. For this reason, we are often called the Order Entry Group. However, data entry isn't all we do. We're also one of the groups that deals with customer credit card info, compliance with federal regulations, and fulfillment of government contracts, among other sensitive subjects. The senior team members, such as yours truly, are often unofficially on a first-name basis with some very important, very serious people who need you to solve their problems yesterday. To put a fine point on it, we only look like an entry-level position. People who understand this give us our due respect, often because we can and have moved mountains for them. People who don't understand, you only see us as order entry, we don't really have the time to deal with them until one of them becomes our boss. The setup. At the time our story takes place, my group was processing between 1,000 to 2,000 orders a day. We're not a large group, only a dozen or so, and most of the submitted orders were still coming in on physical paperwork. Some of our orders had started coming in online, and as an experienced operator I was put in charge of a small test queue to see if online ordering would be viable. These were real orders, but only about an hour of work a day, and I cleared them out handily. Another important note: there was always physical work on our shelves. We got a late shipment every night that was expected to be done first the following morning. Enter Clueless Supervisor, our new boss. Let's call her Portia. Portia is old school, but not in a good way. She is authoritarian and micromanages. She has never done our job and sees us just order entry. And she doesn't hold with our newfangled online ordering system. Physically present work is king. She is actually a fairly pleasant person, but her word is law. Portia doesn't like it when we're doing things other than entering orders, things like the rest of our job. She doesn't like that I put the online orders first. I'm treating them with the same priority as other real physical work. She insists that the physical work must all be done before online orders can be processed. But as you may recall from above, the physical work is never completely done. There is always more work to do. I try to argue with her, but she insists. So, I comply with her request, and the online work starts to pile up. One day turns into two turns into a week. I have about 5 hours of work in a queue only I have access to, and I'm actively monitoring because my previous boss trusted me to stay on top of it or report any problems. Keep in mind, this is real work for actual customers, not fake work designed to test the system. And since we're directly related to the medical field, we're not just impacting our customers, we're impacting their patients. That's bad. So a week goes by. I pass my previous manager, let's call her Daenerys, my former boss's boss, in the hall, and I casually drop the bomb on her that the online work has been piling up for a week. Daenerys is the woman who is largely responsible for getting the online system I'm working on set up, and for her efforts, she was eventually promoted to director. She is one of those important, serious people I'm on a first-name basis with, so I'm not really worried when she gives me a flat menacing, "What?" I explain the situation. Daenerys isn't just important and serious. She helped build the group I'm in. She knows exactly what the operations department does, so Daenerys says, "I'll take care of it." The aftermath. Daenerys pulls Portia into a meeting. I don't know what was said, but afterwards I was told to prioritize the online queue until I had it under control. And for the next month, Portia positively oozed anxious solicitude. She wanted to make sure the online work got done. I only wish her change in attitude lasted, but those are stories for another time. 5. Setup. I work for a call center company and my team services a retail company that has multiple stores. Our company is not located in the same country as the customer. During holidays, everything is hectic, work is overloading. We are all tired and on the phones from the moment we step into the building to the moment we log out 8 hours later. The workload is seriously crazy, and that is just a part of it. Beyond dealing with whack and out-of-touch customers that pop up more often than not, this event happens during the aforementioned holiday season. I am sitting at my assigned spot halfway through my night shift, almost ready to take my lunch break, when I see a bunch of incidents popping up for one of the stores. Like an alarming amount of incidents. I inform my manager and they assign me personally to check in and ring the store to get the information needed to resolve the incidents. All the reports we have received initially had half-filled-in info and issues stated as vaguely as possible, which is always a dead giveaway that the person filling the reports doesn't really care and or know the issues and is just blindly reporting. 50% of the time, the issues are entirely different or non-existent when we make a call. People that mostly make these sort of reports just want to have a tech on site to work on the issues and refuse to speak with us and are rude or hang up. Which is a bummer, as our company policy mandates that we have to gather specific information by asking questions and logging it all into the report, and also trying to troubleshoot over the phone before anyone can be sent out. If they refuse, they will be billed for the technician as they did not comply with the mandatory troubleshooting. But that will also leave a stain on my monthly report, as it is not a good start to have stores that refuse to comply. Otherwise, the technicians go out to replace damaged equipment, which is somewhat more favorable for the monthly report, as damaged is damaged and can't be fixed over the phone. Replacement is also billed to the customer, which is something they aren't usually aware of, and can get them into trouble if they falsely reported damaged equipment when the issue was easily solvable over the phone. So I gather all the incidents, sort them, write up all the equipment reported, and the associated reference numbers for it, and make the call. After around 10 minutes on hold, I reach the exact person that has put in the reports. The conversation went something like this. "Hello, this is RIIC. I'm calling from technical support for the reports we received for your equipment. I see you were the one that submitted them."
"Yes, I have. I will need a technician sent immediately. More than half of my equipment is down, and we aren't able to run business properly, and it's very busy."
Knowing there's no chance he knows the answer to this, "All right, sir, I will need to log all the issues exactly as they're happening on the equipment. Can you please list them off for me?"
"I don't know. There are issues with this and this and this,"
continues, listing random issues that don't even match his own reports. I wait until he's finished. "Thank you, sir. I will just need to—"
"I need a tech to fix this."
"Ask you a few more questions."
"Okay, what do you need?"
I proceed to ask very detailed questions about each piece of equipment, over 30 pieces of individual equipment, and he resignedly says he will check. I spend the next 20 minutes on hold, noticing my lunch break time has passed in the meantime, thinking I will have to spend another hour or two filling in reports and sending requests for a technician, as the customers that report this amount of issues notoriously refuse to troubleshoot. I lament my empty stomach. Finally, the jerk is back online. He starts giving me information about the equipment, yet again missing out on half the stuff I asked for. At this point, I'm already hangry and I just want this over and done with. And that is when he makes a critical mistake. "I'm sorry, sir, but this isn't all the info I asked, and it is very important for us to log reports correctly."
"I have given you all the info I have. Why does it matter when you're sending a tech to replace it anyway?"
I never agreed to sending a tech in the first place, as it's not company policy. "Actually, sir, company policy says we have to troubleshoot on the phone with you after logging the information, and that the technicians are immediately dispatched only for physically damaged equipment."
"Well, it is."
I'm not sure I heard correctly. "I'm sorry, sir, did you say the equipment was damaged?"
"Yes."
"You're saying, sir, that all of the reported equipment is physically damaged?"
"Yes, all of it is damaged."
"All right, sir. I will then log that into our report and issue a dispatch notice."
"Thank you."
He drops the line rudely. I stand up and go talk to my manager, arranging for a prolonged lunch break after I'm done with all the reports. They're very accommodating, considering the gargantuan pile of reports I need to rework and then dispatch. I also inform them that the customer stated all the equipment is damaged. My manager gets the same shit-eating grin I did while I was on the line. I proceed to work on the reports for yet another hour and a half, and then take a much-deserved lunch break for double the time than usual. Explanation. Considering the large amount of issues reported and all the issues being filed as damaged, if the customer falsely reported it, which I am 99% sure he did, they will be charged, and since all the reports have his name written on them, I do wonder how the conversation with his manager went after that month, when our company issued the billing report. The billing would have had the same outcome if he had refused to work with me on the line, but this way it looks better on my monthly report, considering it is filed as damaged and not non-compliant. If the customer had complied with the contract and troubleshot with me, we could still have sent a tech out if it didn't work, and they wouldn't have had to pay a thing. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, number 54. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. And screw you to the idiots who have been partying in the background from 3 to just after 5 in the morning right now, as I've been recording the past couple of videos. They're partying. It's raining, that hasn't deterred them. And unsurprisingly, the fact that we're living in a pandemic also hasn't deterred them. It would be bad enough if we were still in a situation where it hadn't ended, but numbers had decreased, except in the area I live in, we're noticing a spike. That'll be the beginnings of that second wave we were promised, if everybody didn't shape up and start acting right. And of course, these tools are the exact reason we're seeing that spike. But of course, they don't care about anybody else but their own fun. Right, enough grumbles. Moving on. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves. Because there is death outside, and the people in the area you live in likely don't give a crap about anything but their own pleasure. But seriously though, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.